we can't pour from an empty cup out. So we have to prioritize ourselves and our needs and our well-being. And you might think that's selfish, and we often do, because we've been brought up in a paradigm where success equals sacrifice. I can only get to where I want to go if I'm prepared to sacrifice my health, my relationships. Bullshit. Bullshit. We've got to put ourselves and our needs first.
Right, folks, today I'm here with Dan Glyde, and I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this, and I can't tell you how much we've changed the title to this as well. Enough to say that if we'd gone with our original thing, this thing would be clickbait central, probably getting millions of views. Dan is brilliant fun. His social media posts are next level. His engagement on social media is brilliant. And he's a personal transformation coach that works with men to jolt them out of the lifestyle that is going to send them down the wrong route. And he's doing some phenomenal stuff. And today we're really going to talk about selfishness and how being more selfish is good for your soul. So that is my little intro to you, Dan. Do you want to give an intro to yourself and tell people what it is you do and who you are?
I'm not sure I can follow that, Adam, to be fair. I think I might just leave that there. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I was looking around to see if there was somebody else you were talking about for a minute then. That's really kind. Yeah, so I work with men, Adam, because I see a particular problem in our culture and in society at the moment. And it's a kind of 20th century way of doing things in the 21st century, which is literally killing men. You know, you look at suicide rates, you look at cardiovascular disease, it's literally killing men because the world has changed and our world has changed, and men have got to change with it. We've got to embrace this new modern world and stop thinking we've got to be like our forefathers. We are no longer in world wars like we were in the 20th century. The world is a different place. We face different threats. We now need men who are not showing brute force strength, but are showing strength through compassion and empathy and emotional vulnerability. Men who are emotionally available. We need men to prioritize themselves and their well-being first. So not financial success, not material wealth. That will come. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but not at the detriment of your health. And my mission is to help men to fall in love with themselves, Adam, because I know that when men love themselves, they become better dads, better husbands, better leaders, better employers. They're secure in their own skin. Then they have better health because they want to look after themselves. And I think this is a bit about what we're going to talk to today, because some of the reason that men don't do that already is because they feel like it's selfish. You know, we have an inherent drive as men, and it is an inherent drive. It's not a fucking social. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear?
You are now, Dan.
It's not a social construct.
Unfiltered. This is Dan Glyde, unfiltered, folks,
Yeah,
unfiltered.
yeah,
And
but my
believe me,
tagline,
we're only
Adam,
scratching the
is
surface of what the original title of this video
real, raw, and honest. That's me, real, raw,
Raw,
and honest.
Raw Dan Glyde is what we've got here.
And
Rawhide.
those drives, Adam, as you and I know, they're not social constructs. They are adaptive behaviors that, you know, human beings are mammals that, you know, and these things have been developed over time because they bring balance. And so, but there's a different way of doing that now. There's a different way of providing and protecting. It's not about brute force and violence and command and control. It's about being there. It's about knowing who we are, being comfortable with that, being in love with ourselves, because we can only love others as much as we love ourselves, Adam.
That's a good point. And what are the symptoms that men come to you with, Dan? What is the thing that they wake up one morning and think, right, that's it. I've got to get help.
The first thing that Adam is always is feeling. They feel like shit. They feel empty inside. You know, I work with a lot of guys that are very successful materially on the outside. You know, they've got lovely houses and they go on luxury holidays every year and they eat out nice meals and they've got plenty of money in the bank. But they've kind of looked at their life and thought, is this it? Because they're miserable. There's a hole that needs filling somewhere. They're often not well in some way, shape, or form, whether that's mentally, physically, or emotionally. And they tend to come to me because they feel stuck, because they know they're meant for more, but they don't know what to do about it. They've got a short fuse, so they're losing their shit with their wife and kids far too regularly, and they don't want to be that person. They're working too hard, they're drinking too much, they're eating too much, lots of short-term pleasures, gambling, because they don't feel good. Because despite all the success and despite all the material things, they've got to that point in their life where they're going, this stuff's meaningless. I want some meaning in my life. I want some purpose. I want some fulfillment. And they don't have that. And they're kind of the symptoms. So they feel stuck, they feel unfulfilled, and they feel a little bit empty.
That's a really good point. So what do you think is the missing link? I mean, we talked about purpose. Obviously, that's a quite a big concept thing. How do people discover that purpose, or how do they get their mojo back?
So my process is prioritize, optimize, execute. So that's my power shift coaching method. And the power shift coaching method is about turning your attention inward. So it's about self-awareness, basically, Adam. So prioritize is, what do you really care about and why? What are your core values? And what is your vision for your future? I think this is what a lot of blokes are missing, is an exciting, compelling vision for their future. When you've got that, you can get yourself through anything. You'll put up with all the shit that life throws at you. Because let's get it right here. Life is not fair. Life is a bitch, and it is going to throw shit at you. You're going to lose the people you love. You're going to have businesses that fail. You're going to crash cars. You're going to have children that get themselves into scrapes. Life is not fair. So we have to be grounded in who we are. We have to absolutely accept ourselves, every part of ourselves. We have to be really clear about what we value, and then we need to prioritize that in our life. That's prioritize. Optimize. Now, this is the meaty bit. Optimize is about, once you've got that vision and you know what you value, it's looking at your belief system. The belief system, we all have one. Most people don't know that they have. Whenever I do talks, the first question I ask is, who here has got a belief system? It's only ever the religious people that stick their hand up. Nobody else realizes they have a belief system. Now, this belief system is a subconscious thing. It runs, or an unconscious thing. It runs in our unconscious mind. And it forms the lens through which we see ourselves and we see the world. And all beliefs are, Adam, are thoughts we've had or ideas we've had that we've never questioned. Now, our belief system is often formed in our formative years, when we're young, when we have no life experience, when we can't discern. So therefore, we take it from our parents, from our upbringing, from our education, from our religion, from figures of authority, from what we see here. And we don't question anything as kids, do we? Because we don't know any better. So we have this lens that we see ourselves and we see the world through that we've never chosen consciously. So the second part of the process is, let's shine awareness on that, because there tends to, every one of us has 2 or 3 core beliefs that really hold us back, that really limit us, that really disempower us. Things like, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not the sort of person who ... That's just the way I am, which is one bloke said to me on a call today. It's not just the way you are, you're choosing to be that way. So that's the second bit, is to make sure the belief system aligns with the vision and the values, so it empowers you to go and make that happen. And then it's execute, which is make that happen. So that's the important thing, Adam, really, is self-awareness. It's turn your attention inward. Who are you? What are you about? What do you really care about? What are you passionate about? What unique gifts and talents do you have to bring to the table?
That's an interesting process, Dan. Now, obviously, in the title of this, we've talked about how it's good to be selfish. Just
Yeah.
bring that alive for us.
Yeah. So often the guys I talk to, right, and we said at the beginning that we need men now to be prioritizing their well-being. Now, some people might think that's selfish. How I live my life, Adam, is I prioritize my life first and my work second. So the things that I care about, the things that I value, the things that I know are going to make me into a better person, a healthier person, a fitter person, they get prioritized first. Now, I'm not doing that for me. I'm doing that for my wife, for my son, for my parents, for my clients. So I can show up 100% for them. We all have mobile phones, and when our mobile phone battery gets to 20%, we fly into a panic and we put it on charge. We don't do that with our own personal batteries. Especially us blokes, we keep going and we keep going and we keep until one day it pops. We can't serve it. We can't pour from an empty cup out. So we have to prioritize ourselves and our needs and our well-being. And you might think that's selfish, and we often do, because we've been brought up in a paradigm where success equals sacrifice. I can only get to where I want to go if I'm prepared to sacrifice my health, my relationships. Bullshit. Bullshit. We've got to put ourselves and our needs first. When you get on an airplane and they do the safety briefing for you, they'll tell you, put your oxygen mask on first. And the reason they tell you that is because if you don't, you're going to die and you can't help any of the people around you. You can't help your kids. You can't help some of, the vulnerable people that might need your help. Put your oxygen mask on first. And that's how you've got to live your life. You've got to put your oxygen mask on first. And the difficulty is when we do that, we feel guilty. If we take time out of our day to rest, and I tell everybody resting is an activity too. We need rest. We need recuperation in order that we can show up at our best, but we don't take it because we feel guilty or we think we're being lazy. Now, this is where being selfish is a good thing, because our lives are not about us. Our lives are about all the people that in our lives, all the people that our lives touch. So in order to really show up for everyone, we have to be selfish. We have to put our needs first. We have to make sure we're fulfilled. We have to make sure our life has purpose and meaning. So we feel good. So we don't lose our temper. So we don't feel the need to try and control people and all those horrible things that men do when they're insecure.
Well, it's interesting because there's obviously a certain demographic within men, and what you're talking about is, I'm guessing your target audience from what you're saying are people that do have high empathy, because obviously a lot of CEOs are narcissists or psychopaths, and they are not going to be suffering with things like people pleasing or putting other people's thing first. So let's talk about this. On a sliding scale of narcissist right at one end, people pleaser at the other, where is the balance?
Yes, that's an interesting one. And I think when you're a good guy, when you're got empathy and compassion, when you're kind, it's very easy to slip into people pleasing. I've been there. I've done it. My dad is a terrible people pleaser. He doesn't like to say no to anyone. And he doesn't like conflict. And people pleasing can come from several places. You could be that like my dad, who doesn't want to say no to anybody. You could be like me in my former job, where I didn't want to say no to anything because I was trying to get ahead. I thought that was the best way to succeed in the competitive TV world that I used to be in, and that's what led me to burnout. So we need to have strong boundaries, Adam. If we're going to look after ourselves and protect our own energy and prioritize our own well-being, we've got to have strong boundaries. We've got to be prepared to say no to people. Because sometimes, because we think we're being a nice guy, we say yes when we mean no. And all we do there is build up resentment. All we do there is send a message to ourselves, I'm not important. So the more you do that, the more it chips away at your self-esteem and your self-worth. And if you've got low self-esteem and low self-worth, you're not going to be at your best. You're not going to be able to be there for those people. So in trying to be the nice guy and saying yes when you mean no, you're actually letting people down, because it's going to create resentment. It's going to reduce your self-worth. It's going to reduce your self-esteem, which is going to harm your mental health. This is why people suffer with anxiety and depression, because they've spent decades just ruining their self-esteem by saying yes when they mean no.
Which is interesting because one of the videos, the titles I released was called The Spiritual Art of Telling Someone to Fuck Off, Dan. Yeah. And obviously you're not going to go around the context of this. You're not going to go around telling people you've just met to do it, but the people that are constantly violating your boundaries. How do you feel about that? Is there a point where being subtle is not enough and you need to be direct with people?
Absolutely. You've got to have strong boundaries. You've got to communicate them. People need to know where your boundaries are, right? And in my experience, when you communicate your boundaries to people, they tend to respect them. But occasionally there are going to be people, and again, they're probably on the up towards the narcissist psychopath end of the scale you talked about earlier on. They're not going to be aware of your boundaries. They're not even going to be aware of you as a separate individual. For them, you're just there to serve them. That's what narcissists and psychopaths are like. You're just a tool. You're just, they don't see you as another human being. They're not sensitive to your needs and your emotions like those of us on the other end of the scale are. So yeah, sometimes you're going to have to tell people to fuck off. Sometimes you're going to have to go, no, I'm not doing that.
And how healthy is that? I mean, just talk about that from your perspective, because obviously you're dealing with, I'm guessing, nice guys that did well, but now have felt some sort of emptiness or lack of purpose now. How do you start to change their mindset or get them to, I don't know, man up? Would that be the term that you're?
I don't like that term, Adam. No, I don't. I mean, maybe we could change. Maybe we could take that back and own it as something different. But for me, man up is about internalizing things. Is about pushing on through. Is about this kind of false stoicism, not showing any weakness, not acknowledging your feelings and your emotions. That's what man up means to me. So I really don't like that term, because I think all of those things are dangerous and corrosive and poisonous to our well-being.
Well, let's look into that. I mean, obviously, there's a meaning deficit here. So we've talked about, you talk about, that we do have something that is toxic in masculinity, but there's also a toxicity in people pleasing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for some people, man up is, saying no to people pleasing. Other people, man up is being an arsehole.
Yeah.
And
So,
just
yeah, I
no
mean,
to
there is an
everyone
element here of having some backbone, Adam. Absolutely, there is, right? And that's why the first step of my process is get to know yourself. What do you care about and why? And when you really know yourself, when you accept yourself, when you love yourself, you're in a much stronger place to be assertive, because you don't care what people think. You love people enough to not care what they think. So you're not second guessing. You're not stuck up in your head. You haven't got that negative voice going, oh, what happens if they don't like you? What happens if they reject you? What happens? What happens? What happens? What if? What if? What if? So you have to do that work on yourself first. You have to be coming from a strong position. And then it's about being assertive. It's not about being aggressive. It's not about upsetting anybody. It's not about being confrontational. It's being assertive. And it's that bit I said earlier on. Not only is it important to have strong boundaries, it's important to communicate them. So you have to tell everybody, this is my boundary. This is my line. I don't do that. I won't work until this time. When I go home, my phone switches off and you can't contact me till tomorrow unless it's a massive emergency. This is what I help my blokes to do, Adam. And what happens is when they start doing it, they come to me and go, bloody hell, Dan. Suddenly people are respecting me more. The way people are looking at me has changed. They're not taking the piss out of me anymore. And the world didn't stop spinning.
So it is interesting there, Dan, because I understand what you're saying, but you also said it's not about upsetting people, it's about being assertive. Is not being assertive being comfortable with sometimes understanding that people are going to get upset and being comfortable with that?
Yeah, absolutely it is. No, so the word I missed out there was deliberately. So you're not setting out to deliberately upset anybody. But if somebody gets upset by you drawing a boundary, that's on them. That's their problem. It's not your problem. All you can do is tell your truth from the heart with pure good intentions. If you have pure intentions, and all the guys I work with do, Adam, you can trust yourself. You don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to care what other people think. Now, if you are the sort of person who doesn't like confrontation, is worried about upsetting people, you can trust your pure intentions because you're not a fucking arsehole. If you don't care about other people, then you're not going to be second guessing yourself. You're not going to be afraid of confrontation. In fact, you'll probably relish it.
Well, we are moving into an interesting territory and something that we have encroached on before in the channel, and that is being comfortable with discomfort, because there is going to be a transitional period, and I guess you have to navigate people through that. So, what are the issues that traditionally, what are the biggest issues that cause friction on this transition from being a people pleaser to being assertive and being happy? What are the issues that you
Limiting beliefs, Adam.
so
Limiting
what I've done is
beliefs.
bring that alive, Dan. I mean, give us some examples of the
Yeah.
type of
So
limiting
if you
belief.
feel like you're not good enough, or you don't deserve respect, you're not gonna draw strong boundaries in order to get respect. If you feel like you're not good enough, you're gonna happily let people walk over your boundaries, or like I did in my previous career, you're gonna say yes to everything all the time because you don't feel like you deserve, um, or you don't feel worthy of success. So I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. I am not enough. I'm not enough of a man. Especially with blokes, that one obviously. These are the beliefs that are going to get in the way. The not deserving, not worthy. That's when you're going to let people walk all over you. That's when you're going to avoid confrontation, and also the caring what other people think. This is a big problem. It's like a disease in our society. Judgment, right? So if you regularly judge other people, you've got a problem. If you regularly judge yourself, you've got a problem. If you're comfortable in your own skin and you know who you are, and you love yourself, you won't judge yourself and you won't judge other people. So you'll be secure. And when you feel secure, you then have empowering beliefs. I am good enough. I am a good person. I am worthy of good things. I am worthy of respect. Then it becomes much easier to draw boundaries. Now, it's what happened to me in my career, Adam. It was around 2018, I burnt out. I had a massive panic attack one day, sat on my doorstep, and I was just physically, emotionally, mentally, I was wiped out, mate. I had nothing left to give because I was such a people pleaser. And then I started to work on myself, turn my attention inward, the power shift. This is how I developed this coaching method, by working on myself. And I realized that career wasn't for me. So I knew I was going to leave. I thought, right, that's it. This job is not for me. I'm going to leave. So I stopped caring. So I stopped people pleasing. I started saying no to people. I started drawing boundaries and telling people what my boundaries were. I got promoted twice. I got to direct programs on national television that I'd never done before, live FA Cup matches, live rugby league matches. It all dropped in my lap, Adam. The way the whole rest of the department saw me changed. Suddenly I was respected by the higher ups. Suddenly I was taken seriously by the higher ups. And all because I started saying no.
Now, that's a very interesting thing. So, what you're effectively saying is that for people with high empathy, people pleasers, people that think that they're doing good by saying yes, is actually the opposite. That people
Yeah,
pick on the
exactly
lack of
that.
respect and pretty much will trample over you for as long as
Yeah,
you allow them to do it.
yeah. And yeah, and people will, and that's the thing, see, because it comes from a lack of respect for yourself. Now, if you don't respect yourself, we said at the start, didn't we? You can only, people only love you as much as you love yourself. And it's the same with respect, and it's the same with trust. If you don't trust and respect yourself, people won't trust and respect you. And so when you are an empathetic and caring and kind, compassion person, that kindness can become toxic, because and you end up in trying to not let people down. You are letting people down because you feel resentful, or because you're so tired because you're not getting the rest of recuperation you need, that you're not showing up at 100%. So if you're like I did at work, when I was saying yes to things when I should have been at home resting or spending some time with my wife and my son, I resented that. And that resentment takes up a lot of energy. And also, it's not a good attitude, is it? So I'm not going to do my best at work. So I'm not helping anyone really, having said yes to that, because it's chipping away at my self-esteem and my self-respect and my self-worth. I'm letting my family down because I'm putting my work first. And I'm letting my work down because I'm not showing up at 100%. So no one wins, Adam. No one.
So where's the balance here, Dan? Because there's an interesting thing that's coming up here. You know, something that's come up when I've spoken to people is that most CEOs are psychopathic or narcissistic. And you're saying the moment I stopped saying yes to people, I started to rise in the ranks.
Yeah.
So for a guy that does want to rise through the ranks, but doesn't necessarily want to be a narcissist, how do they know where the balance is?
Trust your own feelings. If you're a good guy, if you're a kind and compassionate person, you can trust yourself. And that's the thing, you know, like we said earlier, the narcissists, they don't give a shit. So they will just walk all over people. If you're a kind and caring and compassionate person, you won't do that. You won't, because it'll feel bad. You're not naturally motivated in that way. You're not ruthless. So trust your feelings. If your feelings are telling you, hang on a minute, you're crossing a line here, you're being over the top, this is unnecessary. Trust that. Pull back. But if your feelings are saying, no, I don't want this, say no. Don't say yes when you mean no. Say no. I'm not doing that.
I like that, Dan. Trust your feelings. You're sounding like a Jedi now, which is what it's all about, fella. So channeling your inner Jedi is part of getting in touch and finding that right balance. That's what I'm hearing. Being tough, but still keeping true to yourself, that you're not going to be randomly pissing people off just to prove that you
Because you
are.
can be tough and kind, Adam. You can.
Yeah.
You can be the sort of bloke that likes to smash tires up with mallets and then goes home and puts a tutu on and plays fairies with his daughter. That's allowed, right? You can do that. You don't have to be one or the other. It's not either or. And the world needs kind, compassionate, empathetic men to stand the fuck up right now. Look what's just happened in America, right? Now, hopefully it won't be the sort of carnage that maybe some of us think it might. But we need kind men to lead, to trust and respect and love themselves so they can draw boundaries, so they're not getting burnt out, so they're not trying to please people all the time and avoid confrontation and reducing their own self-respect and self-worth and burning themselves out and knackering themselves out. We need kind men to come from a position of strength. So they need to look after themselves, Adam. They need to draw boundaries and they need to love and trust themselves first. That's where it starts.
You will trust yourself.
These are not
I
the
love
words
it,
you're
Dan.
looking for.
You know, I'm feeling like we're going down the Jedi path here, and that there's a lot, you know, maybe Luke Skywalker is our guide on this journey, you know, to be
Why
fair,
not? Why
kind,
not?
and strong all in
There was
one.
a hero. There was a
Absolutely.
hero who embraced both his masculine and feminine qualities. He had balance
That's it. So we
and he
don't
trusted his
necessarily
feelings.
need to be Liam Neeson in Taken. We need to be more Skywalker to be firm but fair. I love
Yeah.
it. Absolutely love it. So if you were to summarize, in fact, no, let me give you a different question, Dan. If a guy's watching this right now and thinking, shit, I need some of that, what's something that they can take right now and implement into their life? What would you synthesize as a key learning, something that they can take right now to start to change their life in the right direction or a better direction?
It's well, for a kickoff, slow down. Everybody in the modern world is moving way too fast. We're not built for it, Adam. We're just not built for the pace we're living our lives. So I get it, right? We've got responsibilities, we've got things to do. Find little bits of time, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, half an hour after work, just to take a bit of time for yourself and to be with yourself. Now, when you're doing that, and when I talk about turning your attention inward, I'm not talking about turning your attention on your thoughts. You are not your thoughts and feelings. You are the observer of them. Practice identifying with the observer. Practice noticing what you notice, being in the present moment. That will make you feel more at ease because the other two, the past and the future, they don't exist. They're mind-made things. So don't put your attention there, because what's it Tony Robbins says, where attention goes, energy flows, something like that. So put your attention on now, on yourself, how you feel here and now, and do that as often as you possibly can, because your feelings are the clue. So if you're feeling bad, there's something you need to do about that. If you're feeling good, make hay while the sun shines.
Fair play. So what I'm hearing there, Dan, and maybe I've got Star Wars on the mind right now, is it's all about presence.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is all about presence, because all that exists is now.
Well, I have felt your presence today, Dan, and I can't thank you enough for coming along and joining me on my little podcast, and for the fun that you bring to it all and the unique insight as ever. And if there's anyone out there that would like to find out more about what you're up to or get in touch, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can, if you, Dan Glyde Coach is the way to find me. So danglydecoach.co.uk is my website. LinkedIn /Dan Glyde Coach. You'll find me on LinkedIn. That's where, that's my social media presence. And my email is danglydecoach@gmail.com. So you're welcome to get in touch with me via any of those means.
And I can say to anyone there that if you haven't experienced Dan Glyde's social media presence and his LinkedIn posts, just get on there just for that alone. Because if you want to know how to engage an audience and find unique perspectives on what you do, then he is definitely the man. Dan, thanks so much for joining me today. And to everyone else out there, get in touch with Dan, find out more about what he's up to, and definitely connect with him on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Adam. That's really kind.
You're welcome. Cheers, Dan. Take care, fella.